I remember 3 weeks ago I said, tune in next week for the big Telegram podcast, and we're going to talk playoff football. Well, flash forward these 3 weeks, and we are finally back, and we are ready to talk high school playoff football. Yes, round of applause. We have a sound effect machine now. No, we don't. When the playoffs began in the area, we had, 13 teams, I think, something like that. We're now in the third round. It is December 1st, and we are down to 4 teams. 4 teams left: Temple, Salado, Rockdale, and Holland. We're going to talk about their matchups. Tonight, 3 games, and there's 1 game Saturday. Salado is playing Saturday. We have a couple rematch scenarios, too. Temple is playing Port Arthur Memorial again this year in the same round. Salado and Belleville are meeting for the 3rd time in the last 3 seasons in the playoffs. This time a round deeper than last year, which was a round deeper than the year before. And Rockdale and West played each other in the regular season opener. And they are playing each other now in the 3A Division I, Region 3 semifinal. So let's get going. Lots to talk about, and we're going to try to condense it into a manageable listening period, 15, 20 minutes. We'll see what we can do. Greg, what's up? You're here with us. Marcus is too. Daniel. But Greg, the Temple beat writer.
All right, so we've got rematch, like Josh mentioned. Temple, Port Arthur Memorial. Teams played in the same round last year, Region 3 semifinal in 5A Division 1. This was a great matchup going in last year, and I don't think really anybody saw what actually happened coming, because when it was over, Temple won the game 39-7, which is a pretty stunning result because Port Arthur Memorial had been a very dominant team, just beating people by pretty wide margins all season long. And Temple got down 7-0 early in that game and then scored 39 unanswered points and just really controlled the ball on both ends. Got a couple of safeties and just kind of ran away from them. And, of course, that's a Temple team that ended up playing for the state championship. So they validated that win with 2 other really good ones to get to the state final. It's a very similar matchup this year. I mean, Temple is 9-3 again. They beat all the same teams this year. 3 losses are to 3 teams that are still in the playoffs, and I think they're a combined 33-3. So Temple's very battle-tested, has looked good in the playoffs so far, beating Corsicana and Magnolia West in pretty decisive fashion. Especially last week, Temple really had no problems with Magnolia West. That was a pretty thorough domination. I think Temple knows that this game is going to be quite a bit tougher, and I don't really see any way that it's a runaway win. For one thing, Memorial has Elijah Hines, their star running back. He had to be held out of last year's meeting because of a shoulder injury. He's back. He's healthy. He's rushed for 3,000 yards and 44 touchdowns the last 2 years. And Temple's coach, Scott Stewart, says he compares very favorably to Jeff Carr, the former Temple star running back from a few years ago. So he's a big guy. And then Keitha Jones, the quarterback, he's your typical dual threat, tough runner, SMU commitment. By the way, Hines is committed to Louisiana Tech, so they've got some talent in the backfield, and these guys are very talented. They're very fast on offense and defense. They've won their 2 playoff games by 65 points combined, so they're rolling, but they were last year too. Yeah. So I'm not sure what's going to be different about this one, although I just think you're going to have a very hungry Port Arthur team.
We talked a few times during the regular season about Temple putting together 4 quarters that were, consistent.
Right.
And it was kind of an up and down way they went about the regular season. I mean, they won a bunch, but, some of those wins weren't as clean as Coach Stewart would have preferred. I mean, how have they looked in that respect in these first 2 playoff victories?
Well, I think, the Corsicana game was kind of up and down. Temple had its moments in that game of some rough special teams play, and then also just a few defensive breakdowns. I think they cleaned that up quite a bit last week against Magnolia West, but that was a team that was a little bit depleted, especially on offense from some injuries. So I think Temple moved on from that game very quickly and said that game's not going to have really much bearing on this one because it's such a superior athletic team, just with a lot of just talent, just speed across the field. So Temple's coach said, running plays where you might break it for 50 or 60 yards. These guys are fast enough; they're going to close that down to 15. And then for the Temple wide receivers, Xavier Johnson, Deontay Hextall, Jared Wiley. They can't expect to find as big of gaps. It's going to be closer coverage, and they're probably going to have to fight for more balls in the air. So I think if there's anything that gives Temple an advantage in this game beyond just its playoff experience, you're talking 9 playoff games in 3 years now, or in the last 2 years actually. Yeah. It may be the fact that you've got 2 good running backs, Anthony Jackson, who should be back this week, DeJon Overton, and then also Zion Leach, the senior, is kind of mixing back into the mix there. So, and then the 3 receivers, the backs, T.J. Rumfield, they're on the ball well. I think Temple's versatile offense combined with the defense they're playing, I think that's going to give Temple the edge. But there's no way this is a 32-point spread like it was last year. I don't see it, but I do think Temple will have enough to march on and potentially get another rematch against Manville next week, because that's their favored to beat Cedar Park in the other semifinal, and that's going to be a whale of a game, and whoever wins that, it's going to take a chunk out of them, because that's a great matchup, as is this one. Yeah. So we'll see if Temple can get it going. Been to the 4th round 3 straight years. We'll see if they can do it 4 years in a row.
Yeah, the margin of victory decreased as the playoffs went on last year too. It went from
it's a brutal road to get through Region 3. It's you may get a little breather if you get to the state semifinals, but to get out of this region, it's the same
at
4
every
teams.
Level. Too.
Yes, no doubt.
Yeah, it's and speaking of a tough road, I mean, Class 3A, Region 3, the 4 teams left. We already mentioned Rockdale playing West. Then the other one is Teague and Franklin. I mean, they come from the same 2 districts. And it almost seems like these teams are always in the mix in 3A. We mentioned that this is a rematch from the regular season opener, which was won by West. But Rockdale is a lot different of a team 3 months later. They have some key pieces back. Their dual threat left-handed throwing quarterback, Torrey Laughlin. He's found his groove. The offense has come along with him, and that defense is, it can be lights out if they start figuring out what the opposing offense is going to be. Marcus is going to be at that game tonight. It's going to be a good one. Anytime you play a team a second time in the same season, that's a good opportunity, and I know Rockdale wants to take advantage of it.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they do. They're probably hungry to avenge that loss. The nice thing is for them, they know what West brings. Of course, both teams have changed a lot since that opening game. I believe West scored like 24 or 21 unanswered points to actually beat Rockdale in that opener. So it was not, even though it was kind of a lopsided game at the end, it wasn't an easy one for West. And, of course, like you said, Rockdale, that was their first game, and they had their new quarterback, Tyler Laughlin. They had some guys out that are now playing. This is a Rockdale team that's could make some real noise in the playoffs. I mean, already 3 rounds deep, they have the potential. I think their offense, of course, is on point, and Tyler Laughlin, Torrey Laughlin, sorry. I'm thinking of Tyler Lemcool. So, but Laughlin, we've kind of discussed this before. I mean, that kid is just a heck of an athlete. He's a good-looking quarterback. He's got a great arm, and he can really light up some defenses and make it work. And the Tigers, the only thing really stopping them right now, I think, is their defense. They still tend to give up some points. I mean, they just kind of have that mindset. We're going to outscore you. We don't mind if you score on us, but we're going to outscore you. And West is kind of a team that relies on their quarterback, Nathan Garrick, who has 1,300 yards passing, 16 TDs, 5 interceptions, and has rushed for 743 yards with 3 TDs. And I think if Rockdale just kind of keys in on stopping him, they should be fine. I mean, West does have some other weapons, but not as many as Rockdale has, I think.
A couple of those weapons weren't in that first game. And I think Greg?
I would say when he said, we know what West brings, I thought he meant kolaches.
Oh,
first,
definitely.
Well, they might bring some.
Because, come on, let's go.
Yes, they will probably bring some. Someone will have some there. How many times can I say some in 5 seconds?
You said some.
Yeah, it was like 6 or 7 times.
Bring some kolaches.
Yes. But two of those weapons who weren't there, Oklahoma committed receiver Jaquaylin Crawford, obviously a big part of what Rockdale does, and then the tall, athletic, and pretty good, has pretty good speed for his size, Tyler Lemkuhl. Those two guys have combined for a whole bunch of receiving yards. I think it's about 1,200 receiving yards this season. And then we mentioned Lachlan, just what he does. He's thrown for 1,900 yards and rushed for almost 1,600 with a combined 44 touchdowns. So Rockdale's offense is huge. And Marcus, you mentioned their defense. I saw what they did to Woodville last week. 14 of the 30 points that Woodville scored, actually 15 sort of, came via kick returns, touchdowns. So Rockdale's defense shut down an offense that had been just putting up a ton of points, and did so pretty convincingly, especially in the second half. So Rockdale's looking really good, and they have a really strong chance of making the regional final, which will be another tough test and could be another rematch for them, with Franklin being in the same district as Rockdale and winning that district after beating the Tigers.
Could be Teague, though.
It could be Teague, which is an incredible team as well. I don't know if they're not undefeated, but they might be 11-1. I'm not totally sure, but I know they're cruising right along as well. They knocked
might have lost to West, actually, in district.
Maybe.
Because there was a three-way tie.
Yeah, they lost to West, and then West lost to Malakoff in that district. That's a stacked district.
You can go watch this game, too.
Yeah. Where's that one?
Belton, Rockdale West.
Oh, yeah, Rockdale West, is at Tiger Field in Belton. So if you can't make it all the way out to Prairie View A&M for Temple's game, this one in Belton is going to be a good one to watch. Another team that's had quite a run this year is Holland. The Hornets are 10-2, which is their best record, or their most wins since 1962. They haven't won back-to-back playoff games since 1958, but they probably have the toughest test tonight. They're playing Refugio, and to tell us a little bit more about that one, Daniel is rolling his chair over.
As quickly as I can, maybe not quick enough, but that was my main point. Josh went ahead and stole it, but they are in
yes, I did. That's what I do as the host.
You know what? I'm not
steal people's things.
I'm not going to argue with that. But Holland, they're in the third round for the first time since 1958, if you can believe it or not. First season with 10-plus wins since 1962. And, a lot of people, including some Holland natives, they may just think, we're just happy to be here. But
natives, those are people who were born in Holland.
Born in Holland. So as we discussed earlier, the whole native definition. But you never know what you're going to get on these podcasts.
By the way, Daniel, don't forget to mention that Nolan Ryan is a native of Refugio, Texas.
Refugio.
He graduated high school in Alvin. Born in Refugio native.
Refugio native. Well,
they can claim all 5,700 strikeouts that Nolan produced.
You never know what you're going to get on this podcast, especially with Greg's little tidbits. But that's why we keep him around. But speaking of Refugio, that's who Holland has got in this third round matchup. Refugio ranked number 5 coming into this game, and it's definitely going to come down to which defense can outplay the other. Both defenses has played well this season. Holland's allowed 15.3 points against for the year. Refugio 11.5. Several shutouts. Not uncommon to see a big old 0 for opposing offenses in their games. Refugio pretty much lives in the postseason. It is nothing to see them go 3 or 4 rounds deep. In fact, since 2010, over the last 8 seasons, they've put up a 105-10 record. You don't have to be a genius to know that that's pretty darn good. But I was out there at Holland's Thursday practice and talked to Coach Talbert and talked to their senior star defensive back, Adrian Montalongo, and they're definitely hungry. They realize they're in a kind of unprecedented territory. No Holland team has been this far in a long, long time, but they are definitely not ready to have their season end. Adrian told me that usually by this time, most seasons, at least since he's been there, they're playing basketball come December. But they're excited to be playing football, in December. And he's not ready to start basketball season yet. He's ready to keep the football season going as long as he can, especially being his senior year. And but Talbert did acknowledge that this is going to be their toughest test of the year so far. Refugio, they can put a lot of points up on the board with little time, and their defense can shut you down with no problem. So hopefully Holland is up to the task. Definitely a daunting task. Just kind of a look ahead. The winner of Holland Refugio would get the winner of Yorktown and number 2 Mason. So, if Holland unfortunately can't get past Refugio and Yorktown ends up going out in the third round, you're looking at a possible number 5 Refugio versus number 2 Mason next week. So, that would be a pretty incredible matchup. But again, Holland, they're not looking forward to that. They're just taking one day at a time. They're looking for to get a win versus Refugio. Probably would be the story of the year. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully Coach Talbert can make something work down there.
Yes, Greg.
One more comment on that Holland game. Refugio, you see the 10-1 record. Their only loss was to Geronimo Navarro, which is a 4A Division II team. So they played up 2 classes, and they only lost 21-17 on the road to Navarro, which, by the way, is 11-1, and they're still playing in the playoffs against Cuero this week. Yeah. So that's pretty stunning that they're that good.
Yeah, Refugio is well proven.
And I just wanted to kind of say, Daniel talked about the defenses and mentioned how many points Holland was giving up, but they've only given up 7 in the postseason, which, one of those touchdowns was when the game was already in hand. Holland's defense is playing really good right now. The question is, are they playing good enough to beat a Refugio team that can, just light it up against anybody? And that's possible, but probably not. But Refugio, like Daniel mentioned, they know how to get in the playoffs. They know how to win in the playoffs. This is now their 36th season of 10 wins, where they've had 10 wins or more. And they have an all-time playoff record heading into this year of 115, 42, and 3. And they've been in the state championship game, the last 2 years, and maybe 4 of the last 5 years, something like that. So, it's definitely not an easy task for Holland. It definitely will be interesting to kind of see what Holland can do against a team of this caliber, see how legit they are. And obviously, you beat a team like this, it's kind of a benchmark for seasons to come, teams to come, and it'll be a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
Refugio. Just one more tidbit. Refugio, in their 2 playoff games, have outscored their opponents 104-13.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and if Holland is unable to get past this round, that's they have nothing to hold their heads down about. It's turned into a pretty historical season for those guys over there, and the same can be said for Salado and Coach Alan Hare. I mentioned at the beginning, Belleville and Salado have played each other the last 2 years in the playoffs. And if you want to look back 2 years ago, the 2015 playoffs, it was Belleville against a 1-9 Salado team in the bi-district round, and Belleville just hammered them. It was 49-7 or something like that. Flash forward a couple years, Salado was going in to this game, the third round of the playoffs, at 11-1, and just they've been rolling right along this season. They've only suffered 1 loss, and that was in overtime to Fairfield, which happened to lose to Belleville last week by 1 in overtime in the area round. But Salado has outscored opponents. Where did I have it? 516-166 this season. Just getting it done on offense and defense. So, a lot has changed in the last 3 years. Belleville is still obviously a really good team. They've done well in the playoffs. They're coming in at a 7-5 this year. they lost their first 4 games, but have gone 7-1 since. So this is no easy task, obviously, but Salado just has to feel so much more confident in what it does this time around. The third time around against the Brahmas. As far as the Eagles' offense goes, we've talked about it all season. I mean that rushing attack it's what they do. And the 3 guys, Trey Shepard, Cade DuPois, and Aaron Terzinski, they've combined for more than 4,000 yards rushing and 53 touchdowns. I mean that's pretty remarkable for a set of running backs to do what they've done. And that defense, like I said, they've only given up 166 points all year and 207 yards per game. The Eagles, they have a really good shot of getting to that regional final. I'll put it that way. And if they do, they'll play either Madisonville or number 2 West Orange Stark. So like we said, I mean, this Region 3, no matter where you look, I mean, it's a tough road to the state championship game. But Salado looking really strong.
Kind of like we were talking about with Holland having a great season and now running into Refugio. If this is where the run ends for Holland, there's nothing to hang their heads about. I think if you're Salado, you want to win this game and at least get into that regional final because, like you said, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that West Orange Stark is going to beat Madisonville.
Right.
Madisonville is a very good team too, but I guess you'd have to favor the team that's won 26 in a row in West Orange Stark. And I think that's the game Salado wants to get into because you're either going to record an epic upset or a really, really good team is going to knock you out in the 14th game of the year. So either way, that's a winner if you're Salado.
Yeah.
I think this is the game. I think Salado goes in as a pretty clear favorite,
Sure.
just based on the way they've been playing. And interesting, this is a big setting for 2 small schools. I mean, the Alamo Dome that's a big stadium to play. I mean, even 5A and 6A great teams would not fill that place up. So it'll be interesting to see how the kids just adjust to playing in that kind of venue, the bright lights, a late night Saturday game. But I think Salado has everything rolling right now that it needs.
Yeah, I mean they're the nightcap of a triple header over there at the Alamo Dome.
So they'll start right at 8 o'clock,
yeah.
right?
Oh, sure. No, it's not going to happen.
But they will play the game in 2 hours or less, possibly.
Let's hope for that, because I have a feeling that game's not going to start till after 8:30, if we're lucky. But since that's the only area game happening on Saturday, I mean, it would be well worth the trip to go check out a team like Salado that has just done a lot of good things and so consistently pretty much all year, and it's quite a turnaround. I mean, they were 0-10 3 seasons ago, or I guess in 2014, to 1-10, and then 7-5, and now they're in 11-1. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable and really quick turnaround after Alan Hare stepped in at his alma mater. So just to sum it all up real quick, that game is Saturday. Scheduled for 8 o'clock at Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Coming back to tonight, Temple against Port Arthur Memorial. 7:30 kick at Prairie View A&M's Panther Stadium. The Rockdale and West game, that's 7:30 at Tiger Field in Belton. And then Holland and Refugio, that is 7 o'clock at Gustafson, I guess, Stadium in San Antonio. And yes, I've been passed a note by one of our trusty, I don't know, somebody. And and yes, UMHB, let's not forget about the defending national champions, NCAA Division III national champions. Their quarterfinal playoff game is noon Saturday against number 4 St. Thomas. That's looking like a really good matchup. So look for stories on that game as well on the next couple issues of the Temple Daily Telegram sports section. And goodbye, everybody.